So we're looking at the circumference of a circle now. Basically, the circumference of a circle is just another way of saying the perimeter of a circle. So we're looking at the boundary around the outside. Now, a little bit of terminology we're using here is that we're going to see R and D. Now, R is referred to as the radius, and D is referred to as the diameter. Now, what the radius is basically from the center point of any circle, so the center point of any circle going out to any edge, okay, to any border. That there is known as the radius. So what we've been given here is known as the radius, so 3 centimeters. So it's the center point out to the edge. Now, it doesn't matter what edge it goes out to, it's always going to be 3 centimeters. It's always going to be the same. So the radius of a circle will always be the same all the way around the circle. The difference being is that when you've got a diameter is it must pass through the center point, but it's a line that goes all the way through from one side to the other, but it must pass the center point. So this one here is given us as the diameter because it goes from one point to the other, passing through the center point of the circle. Now what we can do as well, we can see that if you're passing through the center point of the circle, we know that the radius is from the center point going outwards to any edge is known as the radius. So really the diameter is just 2 radiuses together. So the diameter is equal to, when we look up the radius there, so we've got 1 radius, and if we go from the center point out again for the other side, we've got another radius. So the diameter is equal to 2 radiuses. Now, what we've got here is the formula we're using is the circumference of a circle is equal to 2 pi r. So the 2 and the pi will always remain constant within the formula, but the r is going to change depending on the size of the circle. So when you're starting this first question now, it's always a good thing to do to write out the formula first. So it becomes 2 times pi times r is the formula we're using. Now they've actually given us the radius here of 3 centimeters. So it becomes 2 times pi times 3. And you just sub that into your calculator and you get an answer of 18.85 centimeters. That's the first one done. Now the next one, what that's happened is that they've given us the diameter. So if we're using the formula here, C equals 2 pi r, what we said before is that the diameter is equal to 2r. So really what we can actually do is you can just halve the diameter to get what 1 radius is, because we can see that the radius is actually just half of the diameter. So we've got 2 pi r, but when we start subbing the numbers, it becomes 2 times pi times, now if we look at the radius, it would just be half of 8, which is 4. So we have an answer of 25.13 centimeters as an answer. Now another way to kind of do that question is that if you notice that there's 2r is equal to 1d, well, we can just say that then the circumference of the circle is actually equal to, instead of saying 2r, we can actually just say a d pi. So we could actually get the same answer by saying circumference is equal to d pi, so the diameter times pi, which would equal 8 times pi, which would also give us the same answer as this here. So that's just another way to do it. But if you want to keep things constant, then I would just recommend use the one that's easiest to you. Now looking at this next question here, we can see that we've got half a circle and it's actually closed off at the bottom. So a little trick here is that when we find the circumference of a normal circle, so when we've got the circumference is equal to 2 times pi times r, that there is for a full circle. So that's looking at this full circle here. It doesn't take into consideration that we've cut off half of it. So because we've got half a circle, if we've got half a circle, it's essentially cutting it in half. So we're dividing it by 2. If you've got a quarter of a circle, then you've cut it into quarters, so you divide the answer of it by 4. Since we've got a full circle, we just leave the answer as it is, we don't touch it. However, if you're using 2 times pi times r to solve a question, but it's only half a circle, well, you need to divide that by 2 to only get half of the perimeter around the outside. And then again, divide it by 4 to get a quarter of the perimeter around the outside. So the formula we're actually using here is 2 times pi times r, but we're only using it for half a circle, so we divide that by 2. So that gives us the perimeter around there. Now what you'll notice as well is that it gives us the perimeter around the outside, but that formula doesn't actually give us the base of this. So it doesn't actually take into consideration the base of 10. So what we need to do, we need to make sure that we add on the base of 10 as well to the formula, so plus 10. So from there we can actually start solving this. So we just start subbing it in. Now we've got 2 times pi times r. Now r, remember, we've got the diameter here, but diameter is equal just to, the radius is equal to half the diameter, so it would just be 5 meters. So 2 times pi times 5 over 2 plus the 10 on the side. So sub that all into your calculator and you'll get an answer of 72.83 meters. So now this next question will give that formula another go. So the circumference is equal to, this is where it gets handy to write out the formulas before your question. So the circumference is equal to, say, 2 times pi times r, so that remains the same. However, we can see that in this question here, we're actually, I've got a quarter of a circle there. So we've got that quarter. So we want to divide that now by the 4. And again, what we can see is that we've got 2 bases. So we've got one base which isn't taken into consideration and the other base which isn't taken into consideration. So we need to make sure that we add on the 5 for the radius there and the 5 for the other side. So it becomes 5 plus 5, which is essentially just plus 10. So we start solving this one now. Now the circumference is equal to 2 times pi times r. Now r was the radius, and they've actually given us the radius in this one. But you can imagine this is a full circle going around like that. So they've actually just given us the radius as it is, which is 5. Divide that by 4 plus the 5 plus 5, which really is just plus 10. Put that into your calculator and you'll get an answer of 7.85 centimeters. Sorry, 7.85 plus the 10 is 17.85 centimeters. And that's it.